So my next lady that I like to introduce here on the LA Tribune Think and Grow Rich tour is an amazing sister of mine. Her name is Kortney Murray. She's actually the founder of Coastal Capital. She's one of the first and one of the only women CEOs that I know that actually funds entrepreneurs, but she has been working with big rig machinery farmers and funding their dreams and their businesses. And because she's now part of Women Gone Wild, and the reason why is because she was my sorority sister in university, and we came together and realized how powerful it is. And now she's helping fund other women's dreams and financing entrepreneurs' dreams. So I cannot wait to welcome my beautiful soul sister and wild woman, Kortney Murray.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for the introduction.
We are so excited to have you, Kortney, and we're going to give you the floor and enjoy this dialogue. Rhonda, do you have a few more minutes that you can spend with us alongside Kortney? Because, I think that it would be appropriate for you to be a part of this section, given the work that the two of you are doing together. Women Gone Wild is really a testament to women's leadership, which is why we at the Los Angeles Tribune are proud media sponsors, because we want to highlight, we want to uplift, we want to join you shoulder to shoulder, Rhonda, on our collective mission to change the status quo of women's empowerment, women's leadership, and women going wild. You mentioned in the live stream with David Fagan, our friends at Top Talent Agency, that part of your mission is to redefine wealth. I had a chance to watch a couple minutes of that. I would say you're also redefining the word wild, right?
For sure.
Because, a lot of people, when they think Women Gone Wild, they have something else come to mind, right? And so I would say you're redefining a couple different words. But with that, I'm going to step back. Adora is back in the mix. Adora, Carissa, Rex, Rhonda, we're here with Kortney Murray. Kortney, please.
Thank you so much. I am so thankful to be, on this panel with so many amazing, voices. And Rhonda, I wanted you to be able to finish, but I just wanted to thank you, Mo. I wanted to thank you, Adora and Rex, for, having me here today.
Well, awesome. So, Rhonda, I want to thank you and Kortney. You continue to bring us some incredible women, and you introduce the whole world to these incredible women. You've got a great skill and ability for putting megaphones, in front of great messages and voices. And when I got to talk with Kortney offline, just her powerful stand and the way that she's standing predominantly in her business in a man's world, and then went, you know what, hold up. I have a heart for women. Women get to get wealthy too, like financially. And because we know that when women have wealth, they feed other people's babies. They go out and start organizations. They take in people that don't even belong to them. They forgive people that most people wouldn't forgive. And they really do great things. Men do as well, right? But women are, we're talking about women to women with Rex here with us, who's a great supporter of women. And so Kortney, when I met you and found out what you were doing, I was like, this is Soul Tribe, 100%, someone that's standing. So the first question is, can you really think and grow rich? And we'll give the floor to you. I'll back out for a minute and let Rhonda ask some questions, as long as you can stay, Rhonda. I know you're always trailblazing all over the world. And Rex.
Great. Well, I first and foremost want to say that this book, Think and Grow Rich, has been alongside of me since I was in high school. We were asked to read it in one of my classes, and I apologize. I have no idea what class it was because I was too busy talking. And that's why, I guess I am where I am today. So the Think and Grow Rich has really allowed, it's something that, sometimes you read or find somebody, maybe a mentor or whatnot, that really moves you. And this book has always spoken to me. And I love it because it's so much a part of how I grew up. So I had a very dynamic family. my father, family from Lebanon, Catholic Lebanese, and my mother from Arkansas, born from factory workers and Southern Baptist, both very hardworking families. And so understanding the concept of hard work and basically looking at a road that had, not been paved yet, knowing that you have the ability to pave your own road. My parents always taught me work ethic. And one of the things that I had to instill in myself was faith. And that was one of the biggest things that I think this book really created a tool for faith and desire. Because one of the things in my family was, you're kind of part of a status. My father was an attorney, and you create a status when you grow up of how you want your children to be raised, or how you want to have other people perceive you, so you can fit into a crowd or whatnot. And I kind of always, beat to the my own drum. I have, walking through life, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I ended up going to college, and I met Rhonda in college. And I had really no passion or desire to go to school, but I knew that I loved sales. Whatever it was, I was going to become someone in sales. I always talked my way in and out of things through college. And one of the things I learned was if I had enough desire, I could get myself out of the state of Michigan. It was cold. I knew that I had something that I needed to branch off of, but I didn't want to follow, all of the family footsteps. We had a very large family, and I wanted to make sure that I created something on my own, being a woman. So when I got to college, I ended up taking a position selling cars in Georgia. And I remember my family thinking, what are you doing? You have an education. Why are you going to sell cars for a commission-only job? Well, when I got to Georgia, I ended up selling the most cars in basically every single month, moving up, up the branch into finance, into the automotive world. And then I decided to, I sold a car to a woman who owned an advertising company, and she offered me a job when I delivered her car. And I thought, why not? I'm going to, keep moving up the ladder until I find out what I want to do. And all of that leads me to talking about taking a position. From that position, I was paid very well. I was in my early 20s, and would have been a job of someone's dreams in this advertising marketing. Steady pay, had benefits, it had everything you could possibly think of for a 20-year-old right out of college. And what do? I jump ship and I start going to door-to-door sales. I thought everyone in my family was going to go crazy. They thought, what are you doing? And I will tell you one thing that taught me, to never look back. It taught me persistence. It taught me the power of being loyal to myself, and remembering that there's no competition unless you create competition out there. And so that kind of moved me from Georgia to California, where I started selling heavy equipment. So as you see, I bounced around quite a bit. And then I opened my first business, which was a clothing store. So my family life and my upbringing and every job that I took really had just climbed the ladder of, trying to start creating self-control. I started creating sympathy and understanding when I was completely broke, didn't know what I was going to do. And I opened up this clothing store, and I thought, where am I going to buy clothing to furnish the store to sell? And so I started brainstorming, and I started going to the racks of TJ Maxx and doing things that I didn't know, where my next meal was coming from. I knew how to make people look beautiful. I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And so I started climbing that ladder of trying to find a mastermind, trying to find people that would add value to what I was doing. I started asking for help and humbling myself. And one of the things I learned through having my clothing store was undercapitalization. And being in all the businesses I was in, from heavy equipment sales, car sales, I always made money. But having my clothing store, I had along the way ruined my credit, and along the way didn't save any money. I was in my 20s. I was in California. My clothing store's name was Chaos, kind of like my life at that time. And when I was 3 years in, I had to close my doors. And that was the most humbling and awful experience of my life, because I knew that I had a couple choices. I could move home and say I failed, or I had to pick myself back up off the floor. And I remember my brother saying to me, the only thing you need to do is never overpromise and underdeliver, and you need to move forward. And so this, I'm going to show you guys, is my mascot. It is my rhino, because they have thick skin and they don't walk backwards. And so I've always utilized this rhino since. And I ended up getting into, I started working for an equipment finance company. And I will tell you something that I learned is I realized there is another arm out there for assistance to help entrepreneurs, to help people outside of banks, outside of giving away equity, outside of taking in partnerships that you don't want to take in. I started learning this trade, and I became very passionate about it. And now we're 11 years in, and I have built established a business with heavy equipment financing, farm financing. I mean, you name it. If it's a big piece of yellow iron and in a man's world, I've done it. But one of the things that I left on the table were these women entrepreneurs that were so amazing. And I was like, I don't want to stamp approvals for people because of a credit score. I don't want to act like a bank. I love sweat equity. I love someone who went door-to-door sales for hard work for $25, every time somebody downloaded stamps.com. I mean, those are the things I did having a college education, because I took a chance on myself, and it was persistence. I literally took a chance and believed in myself. It was brain power. It was the power of the mastermind, a power of not listening to the negativity around you. And that's why this book is so passionate for me. The Think and Grow Rich, it's a way of living. It's not just a book. It's not just principle. It's a way of living. If you take the positive in everything that you do, you're going to create positivity. If you are thankful every day, there's going to be thankful things happening to you. When you become a partnership, don't put in 50% and 50%, put in 100 and 100. I think that there's so many things that women leave on the table, because we as women, we have to be feminine, but to be able to move forward, you have to have your masculine side out. And I think that masculine side doesn't humble itself very often. And so if you can reach out and find the right arms of help, the right masterminds, and create the persistence even from failure, I think that you have a long, prosperous future ahead of you. And we just wanted to be able to, when Rhonda and I collaborated this last year, we thought, what can we do to bring this gift to these women?
Wow. Can I ask a question? May I ask a question?
Of course.
Both of you, actually, of Rhonda and of you, Kortney. And they said, I love women, and I do, because most of the primary influencers in my life have been powerful and positive women, from my first acrobatic dance class at 3 and my first acting class at 4 and going on kindergarten. But and I think this is going to be true of men too, but I want to ask it about women. You think that when Rhonda said, the bitch part of being a leader, that people are afraid to step into their power, or if they're afraid that they're not going to be voices heard, is when they're more likely to be a bitch, or a man is more likely to be toxic, because they're they're more concerned about the fear element or the not succeeding element. But the people who've come into their power are the ones who relax into their power and then are able to live from that and from the positivity. And then they can include everybody, because it's not a competition driven thing. It's a we're all in it together collaborating thing. So can you both speak to the power of women in that regard?
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think this is what the beauty is that, when powerful women come together, the world does change, right? We give life, but more importantly, it's because of the type of energy that we can bring. We all have our role. And I think that the more now I'm seeing, especially, I believe that these last 2 years were a blessing to all of us, because we all had to step back and get really clear. We couldn't move around too much. There wasn't a lot of external energy around us. And we got to really look at ourselves and see, who do I want to be and where do I want to go? And I do believe that when women start to really recognize that it's about lifting each other up, right? That more can happen, and actually more wealth comes from it. And that's what I'm recognizing. I mean, when Kortney and we came together, and she's in the book, and, she said, Rhonda, what if I could start financing the book? Like, you do a huge thing. Like, we do billboards, and they're published in multiple publications and magazines. LA Tribune publishes our ladies. And then it's like, there's so much. She goes, what if I could just help fund this? Because not everyone might have the pocket cash, right? But they want this and they deserve it. And then that's boom, look at that collaboration. Now we've just changed other women's lives. So for that, I see that it's like, once we just move out of that space and start opening us up to collaboration, look what happens.
And it's all about opportunity cost. I mean, a lot of people and women entrepreneurs, especially women entrepreneurs, which is crazy because through this craziness and in COVID and whatnot, I decided to get certified in yoga. And one of the women entrepreneurs that I helped grow her business was my yoga instructor, who has built Disney for basically yogis. It's 10 acres of this beautiful land and gazebos and whatnot. And I was like, it's so crazy when you find, I was hiding behind this computer screen and underwriting and stamping approvals on all these, looking at the credit profile, the things I've done for so many years. And 11 years later, I look at my husband and I said, let's take everything we've saved and let's start helping people that we believe with the sweat equity. And I don't, necessarily need a funding source for, all of these big pieces of yellow iron. What we want to do is help uplift women, uplift people in society who are really trying, who may have had a mistake here or may have had a credit glitch here. Somebody who believes in their product and aligns themselves with the right people. Somebody who is, has learned how to outwit the 6 ghosts of fear. I mean, there's so many amazing qualities of this book that can just change your mindset to help you if you don't have, one of the things in our world today, a lot of people aren't getting the mental, there's a lot of mental health issues because people have been, you take an extrovert and you put them at home for 2 years and you're going to have some things there. So, reading and being able to get on these calls and collaborate with some amazing people has really helped, me personally as an entrepreneur come out from behind the screen and say, this is what I want to offer. And Rhonda has helped me, come out and be able to come across my fear of, do I have something good enough to offer? Well, yes, I do. I talk to entrepreneurs all day. Why am I afraid to do it here, in the face of everyone? And so it's really exciting to be able to collaborate and help women get their voice out. This is a movement, and so I'm really thankful that, I was able to participate in this call today.
Can I ask one follow-up question? I want to turn it over to Carissa. There are a lot of people who are entrepreneurial in spirit and they don't know how to start. But then there are all those other people, young women included, who they're working a job or they're working 2 or 3 jobs. They're doing the part-time stuff. They're really struggling to make ends meet. Men too, but but they're young women and in their teens, in their 20s, even in their 30s, or they have kids. They can watch this and go, yeah, I get the head thing or I can read the book, but is there a way do you reach out, or is there an avenue for people to be able to like approach? I don't want to put you on the spot, but I mean approach you or some foundation or something where the very people who need the most help can find it, and find people who collaborate or work together, or maybe we need to create one or a foundation or something that can support these. Because you talk about sweat equity, and a lot of people are like, I'm not going to work for free, and yet we talk about Barnes, working as a janitor during the time when he wanted to be when he thought in his head he was a partner. So to inspire and give hope to these people who seem very, very disenfranchised, what can be done, or how can they move forward?
Were you asking me or Carissa?
I'm asking you, but I can ask you both, Rhonda and actually Carissa, to chime in on this, because you're all powerful women.
No, I mean, I absolutely, there's what my company does is we consult with anyone from startup entrepreneurship all the way through large expansion. So we're at Coastal Capital, which we can do a collaboration, with all of us women and put that information out there. But Capital is with a K, like my name, and Coastal Capital. We have many advocates here that would be able to talk. And I also put out as a gift in the book to, help assist with anyone who wants to schedule an appointment with me. That's something I love to do. So it's not something that's a paid service. You come in, we're happy to put together some sort of correspondence and help you move to the next level, just because we do start with anything from startup all the way to large expansions countrywide. So.
Awesome. So I know, Kortney, that we may have said this is a panel, but I want you to know you're the star of this section of our show. So, when you're being so polite and passing it off to other people, I want to let you know that we're here supporting, pulling out your gorgeous wisdom. So you are a real example of going the extra mile. And, Dawn Green, who many have met and spent time with on this foundation, at the foundation or on this tour even, really lives this generosity. Like when you go to his town, any of those little library, with the little free books, take one, like he's put up so many of those. He's put so many, like everywhere we go, people thank him for stuff because he, like you, lives in generosity. So how have you seen, and by the way, I love that you got a yoga certification. I just love, women are so dynamic right now, right? Like we're really taking up space. One of my best girlfriends is a young female architect working for huge companies, and she's a belly dancer at night, like a gigging belly dancer, which is so awesome. And you just kind of reminded me
of that.
And speaking of women gone wild, it's like, we're done with these compartments that must live in. I think all entrepreneurs kind of feel that way, like we get to do things and be all of ourselves. So how have you noticed that being in generosity has actually impacted your financial bottom line and the financial bottom lines of the women and people that you help?
I love that question. And it's the reason I love it is because I don't have children. My husband and I do not have children. And one of the things that we decided,
those were Rex's children. Go ahead.
I was like, they were not happy I didn't have children. But we talked together about what can we do to contribute to other children, to other people's families. Just because we don't have children of our own doesn't mean that we can't change other people's lives by not just creating help for assisting entrepreneurships, but creating jobs, creating space for, I actually have some interns coming in to help. The creative mind of the young is so unbelievable for me. And one of the things that, we're incorporating here in my office, because we have quite a big office, is I'm going to start, I'm doing a podcast series about entrepreneurship, and we're going to be giving some of those away, obviously for free, because we want people to come in and be able to access that. But we're also coupling it with, if anyone is here in the area, we are going to be having a woman entrepreneur meeting on one Saturday a month for yoga, talking about book entrepreneurship. Those are the things that actually I love giving so much more than receiving, because when throughout my life, I've always known how to make money. Money doesn't make you happy. Money is monetary. You can buy all of the things in the world, but you can't buy your own time. And that's one of the things that entrepreneurs miss when they first start off. And one of the things that we always want to give back, and mostly me, is teaching that you can add on, but you don't need to start this big. I'm a 3-time entrepreneur, twice failed because of undercapitalization. If I can just give people a little bit of a look inside from basically experience, and giving them the passion that I still have derived in me to show them what it takes to really become a successful entrepreneur, the steps it takes. You don't need to do everything at once. And so giving back to not only my community, and also, like I said, employees and employees' families, and changing their lives, but also giving back of myself and really giving my knowledge and telling my story. One of the things that Rhonda really helped me do is tell my story. I was scared to say, these are my failures. I lost my father in 2015, and it was very sudden, and it was one of the biggest losses of my life. And from there to follow, I had 4 other very major losses within a very short period of time. One, a best friend from breast cancer. I mean, I could go on. And but all of those things change why you're here. You're like, I'm here because I'm going to live right now. And one of the things that Rhonda's daughter said one time when I was listening to her speak is, the future is right. The future is what we have to look towards. The past is right now. These words I'm speaking right now are in our past. If we don't live in our present, and if we don't try to diversify ourselves into something better, then we're not really living. You're just kind of wasting your space. And like Rex just said, the most, or was it Mo just said, when you're the people who have the most wealth are in the grave because they've left it on the table. And I think that that's so important to know as you move forward. And so giving back to community, people, children, things like that, it's increased my bottom line because of the fact that people want to work with me. They see the passion. It's not somebody who's just, oh, I'm here, I'm waiting for, the cash register to, cha-ching its way to the bank, because that's not how it works. You have to put in the work. You have to put in the, talking about your story so people connect. It's all about partnerships.
Yeah, and this is so powerful. And I want to ask you another question, then I'll pass it to Carissa to ask hers. I know she's waiting and gleaming over there. So is gleaming a word?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all for the backup. It is now. It's not, right?
It's powerful.
Gleaming, beaming, gleaning. All right. So, there are lots of heart-centered people that, gave and gave and gave, and their growth was asking for support, putting up boundaries, and maybe even the pendulum swung and they stopped giving and started, all about, because they needed, the pendulum can swing, right?
Yeah.
And then there are people who are all in, taking and not giving, because they're like, sure, once I get to a certain level, but I got to take care of these babies. Like, I have a house to provide for, my so-and-so needs this or that. So how for both of those people, in any order that you want to ask or respond, how do you move into generosity while still taking care of the people and the projects that you've been first assigned to? What's your advice there?
So I have a little story, actually, to answer that. I have a client, and this story was really moving for me, so I'm going to share it. it was a client right now that he had a restaurant. He opened a restaurant. He had 7 daughters, and it opened during the pandemic. And during that time, he had to close down the restaurant and shut the doors. And he wasn't known enough to, like, how are we going to get our name out there? And so his wife said to him, you're going to make free sandwiches and lunches, and you're going to deliver them to every single business in this town. And she said, we don't have the money to do this. We're going in debt. We used everything to open our restaurant. She said, yes, you are. You are going to bag the lunch. You are going to go in and take them to every business owner. And when you do that, you're going to ask them to promote your restaurant when people go into their location. And after you start bringing these free lunches and whatnot. So he told me he brought 1,500 free lunches, and they were nothing more than peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, chips, things that they could create with a little bit of their information on there. She wrote the name on the bagged lunch. They didn't even have the business cards made. And he turned over $75,000 the second month that they did that. They had 7 daughters, 2 in college. He's telling me the story. I'm getting chills because right now we're helping him finance a huge vacuum truck, which is kind of funny, which is in California because he lives in the septic area, and septic is a big, so he was making enough money to actually brand himself and go in on another business. And so we get to learn with our clients. And that was something that moved me so much about somebody who is struggling and not, if you give, just remember, it's just like when you're hot and you have a bunch of, maybe you have a sweater on or something, you're taking it off because you're hot. You're giving it, you're getting rid of it, right? You're not taking it in. So taking creates less space. It creates less space for opportunity to grow your mind. It creates less space for everything. I always think about my shoulders, like how much weight I carried on my shoulders until I started outsourcing some of my work. 60% of 100% is enough when you're hiring. 60% of 100% is enough for your family at the time if you're giving the other 40. So just remember that giving is going to create awareness for people to know that you're a thoughtful person. And then that comes back to you full force. And it might be scary at first, but I swear to God, it's the best thing you could possibly do for yourself.
Kortney, thank you for sharing that story. And that is amazing. And, during the pandemic, I think there was a resurgence of American ingenuity, right? Yeah. We as Americans have historically always risen from challenges. And I think this was our generation's test. I see that Rhonda Swan has been, and thank you, by the way, Rhonda, for being our guest celebrity co-host. I'm curious, Rhonda, if you have a question for your friend Kortney Murray.
Yeah, Kortney, I love her resilience and who she's become. I'd love to ask you, Court, what are the things what is probably one of the biggest failures that you've actually had that have become one of your biggest gifts?
Oh, wow. It would have had to, one of my biggest failures was my clothing store. And it has created this gift of coastal capital. I always call it chaos to capital because the clothing store failed because of, again, under capitalization, but it was really knowledge. And it was also having, I'm a business owner, I'm in my 20s. I had too much pride to give up and humble myself to ask for help. Even when I was suffering, I didn't want to ask my parents. I didn't want to ask my friends. So I would rather go in debt and act like I had it. I drove a BMW, which probably was late on most of the payments, at the time. And so I had to sit and struggle. I had to write letters to the creditors. I literally did everything myself. And the time it took for me to turn my life around, I could have been giving to so many other things. And I learned such a hard lesson because a lot of people paid a company to do this and pay a company to do that. I didn't have that glory. I had a nice pair of shoes and I had to walk myself and to find my next, job. And then when I found this position, it wasn't just sales for me. It was an avenue to help entrepreneurs that had suffered just like I had. And it was me finding my voice. And that's probably my biggest turnaround from failure to success.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. And I love this question about giving, because I remember when Brian and I, when we started to travel, but we left with $12,872.62 left to our name, with a vision and a vow to never put Hanalei in daycare. And we were rebuilding ourselves. And we went to Fiji and we met this Fijian team, and they had, no money, and they made it to the rugby team. They made it to the finals, and they're asking us, thinking like we've got all the money, right? Because we're this family that's living in this $20 a night hotel on the beach, right, in Fiji. Little did they know we really didn't have much at all. And they asked if we could sponsor their uniforms. And my husband still has it in his wallet. We said, sure, we can help. We're thinking a couple of t-shirts, right? Maybe $300-400. They needed full uniforms, and the bill was $3,000. And the day that we had to order them, we had to put half down. Brian shows me our bank account on on the digital, and we just had $2,000 to our name. We had to give him $1,500. He still has the receipt of the $1,500 that we gave them, and it left us with $500 in our family. You know what it did? It brought so much. I mean, it's the karma, right? It's that the reciprocity. It just boom, it just kept coming and coming. And we'll never forget that. I told my son, I think we need to laminate it, because it's literally like almost into pieces. But it's our remembrance that you can never have too much. You can never have too little. And no matter how much you have, give.
Because you can't leave with it.
That's it.
You have to leave with a legacy, whether you have children or family or whatever your motivation is. You can become someone's mentor. You can become that safe place for someone who doesn't have a safe place to grow up, or family setting or whatnot. So I believe in that full force. I mean, there's times that I've looked at my bank account when I was getting married, and now those are not my struggles. The struggles are, how do we get our voice out? How can we change other people's perspective and entrepreneurship and growth and voice and things like that. And that's why, like how to outcome outwit the 6 ghosts of fear. I think that's such a great chapter in this book. And, that's something that we all have to.
Will you hold that copy up again? It's so beautiful to see an original Napoleon Hill. Yes. Did any of you see the phone cover that matched that in Don Green's pocket the other day? Next time he comes up, I was trying to ask him, but it looks just like that cover. It was so cool. To add to this, and then really, Carissa, and I'll get out so you all can.
I'm loving this conversation.
I remember a time feeling called to take care of my parents' rent several months in a row, which is really low. They're in a little tiny town in Parsons, Tennessee. And I remember walking and hearing and Spirit will always take care of me, whether I realize it or not. And I hadn't even done it yet, and got a message from my partner that our rent was paid 3 months in advance, which was so crazy. It was like I hadn't even done it yet. The intention was there and I was aligned with it, but it was almost like Spirit or God or infinite intelligence going, I'm going to lead by giving first. I'm even going to show you how much this principle has power. So I love that you shared your story, because it can feel so scary, especially when you're caring for other people, animals, children, and as women, we want to fiercely protect. It can feel scary to not know, but it really is in that flow that you're talking about, that Rhonda's talking about, and in generosity that the doors will open. And we're not making any income claims, all right, here. So, pay your rent, take care of your babies. These opinions they're purely my opinions. They're not held by the Los Angeles Tribune or the Napoleon Hill Foundation or anybody else. I need to disclaim my own statements. Yeah. There we go. Yeah. Okay, Carissa, finally, right?
Okay, woohoo, yay! Well, it's something that's been talked about a little bit, but I'd love to dive deeper in. Just to sort of put this out there, I'm really appreciating being around women who are claiming their multidimensionality and their voice. And you've mentioned that a couple times, I've wanted to claim my voice and speak my voice. And I think that, there's a lot of women right now who might be saying, well, I don't know my voice, or somebody has a similar story to me, or my story isn't that important. What would you say to somebody who wants to learn how to claim their voice or figure out what their voice even sounds like? Or for somebody who also says, somebody's already said that, or that's already been done. What would you say to them?
Well, I would first say auto-suggestion, which I love in this book, because I think that auto-suggestion is really your whole persona, all of your senses telling you to do something. And when you just mentioned, Carissa, what if someone already said that? I remember I've always come up with ideas. I always thought I could invent, anything. And I remember coming up with an idea once to my father when he was alive. I said, Dad, I would love to make an airplane seat cover because I think airplanes are dirty. And I would love to have like a little yoga mat that flipped over the top, blah, blah, blah. He's all in, everybody's in. And he said, have you ever Googled this? This is like what Google's, comes out. I thought, no, I never Googled it. Well, someone's come up with this idea. And so my voice was shut down at that moment. Like, oh, someone's come up with the idea. Well, I've never seen an airplane seat cover. And so to this day, I always think about that story. Like, if I had gone forward with it, I know maybe somebody had a patent. Maybe mine would have been bigger. If I had a voice in that moment, would that airplane seat cover be in every airplane right now? Because I believed in it. It doesn't matter if someone has already said it. It matters about doing. Saying is one thing, doing is another. It's just like when somebody says knowledge is power. It's applied knowledge is power. Knowledge does nothing unless you apply it. So I think having a voice, always trust your instinct. Always go ahead and have your voice. I mean, obviously there's a society that we have to maintain some sort of composure in, but always have a voice if you believe in something. Don't try to lead by your inner voice instead of following something that you think you believe in. And I think that that's such a big a turning point in anyone's life, whether you're an entrepreneur or just, growing up through the ages. I think it's so important that we believe in, our God-given talent of our senses. And so
amazing, Kortney. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Can You Really Think and Grow Rich tour. We're joined alongside Kortney Murray and a celebrity guest co-host, Rhonda Swan, whose show has millions and millions and millions of views in her own right. And here she is so graciously listening and learning. And I think that's a testament to the leader that Rhonda is. She's always learning, right, Rhonda? I mean, we can always listen, we can always grow, we can always learn. Even if you have a reach of millions of people, you still are a student at heart. So I want to give the floor to you, Rhonda, to ask Kortney a little bit about the chapter that she recently contributed in Women Gone Wild. What was that? What were the takeaways and the principles? Because we want to be principle orientated. We want to focus on take-home value. We want to focus on success principles. So what was the principle that you gained from that chapter that she wrote, Rhonda? And then let's have Kortney do a deep dive into it. Please, Rhonda.
Yeah, I mean, with Kortney, obviously she's sharing her story, and a lot of what she's saying is what she's implemented into her chapter, and it's about undercapitalization. I mean, I think that's our biggest failures that takes place. And, that's one thing, especially with women, and why I love working with women, because half the time women that I've worked with, they didn't feel that they were good enough. And because of that mental mindset, they also were undercapitalized. They didn't ask for help. They didn't go for it. So they're just floundering small. And they're like, oh, I'm doing this on social media. I'm going to help you. And they have a bigger giving heart. So they give everything they've got to a client that might pay them so much less than their value and their worth. And it's like, ladies, listen, you're way more valued. Like, look at yourself. Let's get you capitalized and then know what you do and what you value. And I think that's part of what I love, where Kortney, where your power comes from. But I'd love for you to go deeper into that.
I mean, my chapter in the book, it was about basically failures leading to success. And it was really just the basic story I told you guys. And, I've had quite a few, like I started off, positions and jobs and things like that. But being, for me, was really being in a man's world. And it's funny, even now, as successful as Coastal Capital is, I am also on my banking board, our foundation, like things that I've done for, years to get up to this point. I'm still fighting to have my voice in a lot of things in our industry. And I see that as we become, started buying, some of our own transactions and putting our stamp on some things we believe in, trying to get, that additional recognition has been hard. And so just not giving up, and the perseverance, and, the self-control and the discipline. And another thing that I really tried to touch on is really the sympathy and the understanding, because I think being an entrepreneur as a woman, you can always lose track of the feminine part of it. And so the Women Gone Wild, the feminine part of this book was so important to me. And so that's the point that I really tried to get across in my chapter, to try to, create that sympathy and understanding to move forward.
I think Rex is talking, but you're muted, Rex.
Oh.
That was a beautiful answer, by the way. I love that.
When I get my cup, Mo, I want some pencils and a cap. But I wanted to ask a question, because that's so powerful and so great. And you've been talking about giving. The attitude of the giver that you exemplified, both you, Kortney, and Rhonda, and I know, it makes an incredible difference. What would you speak to that because you've addressed this so beautifully, but the opportunity to give, the story that Rhonda told about her husband and her, when they had to give for these uniforms, sometimes people feel obliged to give, where they feel like, I've even gone through it in my life where I'm like, hey, okay, stop already. I can't give you anymore. And, and it hurts to say that, or people say, well, tough love it. Don't do that, because they need to fall and live in the gutter and all that kind of stuff before they rise up. Well, how do you address the attitude of giving? Also, the other thing is, well, I'll give, but then I want something back. They're giving to get, not to give. So, the opportunity to give, you generate so much, so much goodness in what you've described so far, that I'm really interested in hearing more.
I do believe giving has to have boundaries. And I'm going to say that just because of self-respect.
Okay.
If you don't have a limit on your self-respect, you can give into the ground where it will affect you negatively. You also have to put a value on yourself, your time, and your business. So those things are very important to me. But giving, being the whole aspect of giving, not just money or financial, giving of yourself, giving of your time, giving of your expertise. And that's where I think giving comes in. It doesn't always have to be monetary. It doesn't have to be money. It can be just of your time and your consciousness. Like, obviously we mostly being a business owner with a bunch of different personalities. Everyone's from a different era. You have everyone from 18-year-old who might be an intern all the way to, mid-50s who are coming in. They have a completely different experience. So giving that time and making sure that you have some sort of empathy towards what is going on in their lives. One of the things that I've done to create my business is a very open atmosphere. There's no punch in, punch out time management here. If you need to take your daughter to a recital, or you need to go to a soccer game, you go do that. And if you want to come in here, you just put the effort in and let me see that you're giving me what I'm giving you. And we have an agreement. There's no, like, I believe in this day and age, there's people who need to go home and work. There's single mothers. There's single fathers. There's people who can't take their kid to 5 different appointments and go and hold down a job. They shouldn't be dinged for that. So giving is ability to see through and be empathetic to people's situations. It doesn't have to be monetary.
Hey.
Adora, you're muted.
I have a special surprise and an introduction, other than the fact I will have a whole collection of LA Tribune mugs in my home. I'm doing it on purpose. But before that surprise, we're going to play we're going to take a brief break right now.
We are Driven, a community of educators, traders, connectors, and creators. And I'm your Driven CEO, Corey Crowley. Our mission is to make an impact in the world by helping people attain powerful, implementable skills, improving their outcomes, and maximizing their influence so more and more people gain access to what Driven has to offer. The core of Driven is our comprehensive Driven Trading Academy. and our human-powered trading app. Trading is a key skill for financial freedom, and we have partnered with an elite professional traders, the most elite professional traders in the industry, from Forex, crypto, options, futures, and indices, and even stocks, to create state-of-the-art, curated online academy paired with live training, live trading rooms, signals, and it doesn't stop there. Driven Experiences recently partnered with Driven NFTs, and we have developed the most power-packed, value-based NFT program in the industry, offering multi-reality, ultra-exclusive experiences, including luxury masterminds, parties, events, both in the real world and also the meta world. We invest in education and technology, so our members are ahead of the game. Driven offers the best in education, partnered with world-class, groundbreaking technology, and a powerful business structure. Driven was built for everyone and has been actively impacting people from around the world. And now it's your turn. Welcome to Driven.
Awesome. So, ladies, there's an introduction before we wrap up your time, because we've kind of gone over because this was so great. There's an introduction I was going to make anyway, and I want to make it live. I was able to pull her in. She's one of the top traders in the world, living in Ghana, worked on Wall Street, like she is fire, pure fire, your kind of people. So we'll give her a more formal introduction. Miss J, you are on screen. I don't know if you see us. I want to introduce you to Rhonda Swan, Kortney Murray, Carissa Johnson, and just give you all a moment to talk about, Miss J, tell us a little about yourself so they get to know why I'm so excited to make this introduction.
Wow. First off, thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this. This is absolutely incredible opportunity. And, it's great to see you again, Adora. It's great to be on the screen with you again. And it's lovely to be connected to you wonderful ladies as well. So real quick, a little bit about myself. My name is Miss J. My background, I'm born and bred in the UK of Ghanaian heritage. I'm actually back in the UK at the moment, but I am in between Ghana and the UK a lot. My background is in the investment banking industry. I spent over 12 years in industry altogether. That is making me sound pretty older than I probably am. But yes, I have spent 12 years in industry. I've worked with some of the top tier 1 investment banks globally, worked on the consulting side as well. And ultimately, for me, I was able to have access to an industry that taught me how powerful the skill of trading is and how powerful understanding economics and understanding the financial markets can truly help you achieve certain goals when it comes to your financial targets. And about 5 years ago, I decided that I really wanted to hone in on that skill set and really learn a skill set that I can ultimately make an additional stream of income from home. And now, I'm fortunate to say that I've been able to master a strategy that I've coined called ZAP strategy. And it's something that I've been fortifying for a number of years now. And I'm at a position where I can share and teach that to others and seeing some incredible results because of it. So that's a quick high level wrap up about myself and what I do. And I'm just really excited to be here and be a part of this incredible Think and Grow Rich tour.
Yeah, and so Kortney and Rhonda, another thing I want you to know about her, and we'll get you together offline, is the whole, walking in her heels, ready to rock, and then meeting the man's world, and, really finding her way and her voice and her power and standing powerfully in that, and creating just tremendous impact in the lives of men and women, but really just such a beautiful example that women, as we're rising, like women in their zone. So I don't know if either of you want to ask her a question before we transition to our trading panel.
Oh, so it's so great to meet you, Miss J. Thank you for that. I love women that are just stepping into industries that were, I guess you could say they're rather non-traditional. What could you say for you during your journey into the financial trading industry? What were some of the struggles that you faced, and how did you overcome them?
Wow, that is like a loaded question.
I know, right? But what is like one of the biggest? Because as a woman, though, right? Because as a woman, these are things that I think that we do need to highlight for others, because other women might think, oh, that's only happens to me, and it doesn't happen to these other powerful women.
Well, ultimately, I came into the industry with a bit of a naivety. I grew up with my parents instilling with me the concept of hard work. And, I came from a mindset of meritocracy. You do the work, you get rewards, right? Like, do the work, you get rewards. Let your work speak for yourself. And I realized very quickly on in my start of my journey that that's not always the case. And ultimately, you are in an environment that ultimately will highlight your network, right? It will highlight your network. So if people don't look like you, speak like you, can empathize to who you are, it's really difficult to then create those connections. It's really difficult to then actually create relationships. And I often found that the benchmark on which I was being marked upon wasn't necessarily the same as other people. And it was frustrating, and it did knock my confidence a lot. And even when I would do everything that I thought I needed to do, everything that I would ask my mentor, what is it I should be doing? Everything I would do, and I was still not getting the results that I wanted. I realized that something had to change, and for me, actually, that came from me having a breakdown. I'll be very honest with you. I think after 8 long years of not really getting as far as I wanted to get to, of having, pushbacks after pushbacks, not getting promoted, I was embarrassed. I felt that there was something wrong with me. I felt like I was incapable. All of those self-doubt that feeds in, and ultimately that spirit inside me, which I grew up with the idea that, oh, I can do everything and anything I want to do. It started just dying down. That fire just started dying down until I wasn't recognizable to myself. I would put on a facade when I go into work. I was still me, but a version of me, not really fully me. I didn't feel like I could be completely myself in this environment. And ultimately, for me, it taught me some really, really powerful things. I walked away from that space understanding my resilience, my ability to be in an environment that may not necessarily been designed for me, but I learned so much about how to read people, how to work with completely different people. These are skills that, although it may have not been the best scenario, I really, really was so appreciative of it, because it was tools that I put in my arsenal so that when I finally decided to follow the journey and follow the direction that was right for me, I could use those tools and things that I learned in an environment that was very, very, hard and difficult. And ultimately, for me, I feel like that's what's really made my journey to where I am right now so incredible. And I wouldn't change for the world. It wasn't easy, but I think if I had not had the experience that I had in terms of going through an environment that was so difficult, going through an environment that tested me, going through an environment that had to force me to come out of my shell and learn how to adapt and move, then I would not have had built the toolkit and the resilience to be able to go for my dreams. Because for me, what I found in that experience was that I had the tools, I had the skills, I had the passion, I just wasn't putting it in the right vehicle. And when that right vehicle came along, because I'd been sharpening that skill, it became so much more easier to, put into the right vehicle and really come into myself. So yeah, I would say if you are someone who is going through similar situation where you're in an environment that you think isn't really designed for you, you're in an environment that you think, no one really looks like me or speaks like me, and I feel like I can't be myself, know that it's a season, and that in the dark, that's where you really grow. And so use that to your advantage. Use that as an opportunity to really grow, but do not lose sight of who you are and what it is you're truly destined to do. And I promise you, those skills will be utilized in the right vehicle at the right time, and everything would have worked out for the better.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, it is time for us to transition to our trading panel. And while I absolutely love being myself, I love
you,
your
darling.
accent. I love it. And I just want to play here a little bit. All right. All right, Rhonda, Kortney, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to bring you back on soon, and we'll connect you all offline. Kortney,
Okay,
thanks
you. Ladies. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Enjoy.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much for being here.
All right.